I'm gonna adjust this. All right, I think we're live. At the beginning of every hangout, it says, all right, I think we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm Samantha Studebaker-Carl here, broadcasting live from beautiful Southwest Georgia. And I'm here with all my wonderful friends, with Christina and Danielle and Don and Dan and Catherine. And it looks like we're missing Jason. And Sandy, oh my goodness, Sandy is at the Tony Robbins event up in New York City today, or this weekend, so she's having a blast walking on fire and stuff like that, so that's so exciting. I can't wait to hear what she has to share with us next week on, on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. But, okay, so for everybody who's out there in internet land, you can meet us on SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. If you come over to that page, everybody will be able to comment below the video, and we can make sure and see everyone's comments. So wherever you are, come on over to SaturdayMorningMastermind.com, and of course, if you're viewing mobily, there is a link below on the event page for the YouTube video link, which you won't hear me saying this if you're on a mobile. You'll just have to figure it out, right? Okay, so anyway, the reason we're here is every week we get together and we're studying personal development principles, business success principles, just talking about mindset and creating a better opportunity for us all to grow. So right now we're studying the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People in the Digital Age. And by the way, if you guys don't have a copy of this, in the description here on this live event page, there is a link so that you can get the book on Amazon for like $4.57 or something like that. Real inexpensive over there. And of course, you can always get it on Kindle or whatever digital reader you have. I wish I had a free PDF download, but I could not find one that was actually free. I found a few pirated ones, but I'm not going to spread those around. So with that, guys, I'm going to let everybody just jump out and introduce themselves. And for those of you who are watching, go ahead and introduce yourself out there on the page. Let us know where you are in the world, and then we'll get this discussion going. Whoever wants to jump out. Catherine, we'll start with you. How's that? Okay, Dan.
I'll jump up, yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Smith. I'm in Boise, Idaho, and it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful day here this morning, and glad you're here. Welcome.
Good morning. This is Catherine Clement in beautiful Boulder, Colorado, and it is going to be a beautiful day here, too, and I'm so glad you could join us. Thanks for coming.
Good morning, everybody. Danielle DeLyons out in Anaheim, California. Great discussion today. It's already been a challenge, so we're going to have some fun and excited to get going here.
Good morning, everyone. Donna Allen, Raleigh, North Carolina. Looking forward to the sunshine day myself. Good morning.
Hey everybody, Christina Irvin here, and I'm in Northeast Tennessee, and I'm excited about the discussion. Let's get it rolling.
Okay, was that everybody? Sorry, I was looking at something else in the background. Okay, awesome. So let me just jump over to the page and welcome everybody who's hanging out with us this morning. Welcome Marlene and Dan Sisek, Marcia, and Kelly. Welcome Lou. Welcome everybody. I'm glad to have you on, and for those of you who haven't commented on the page, jump over there. Don't die. Let us know you're hanging out with us. We're glad to have you. And as we go through this discussion, go ahead and share your thoughts, share your opinions, your insights, whatever comes to mind. You can jump out and share with us what you're thinking, and that way we can all kind of learn from each other. That's kind of the key with that. So, and then in the meantime, in between our discussions, throughout the week, you can meet us in our Google Plus community, and you can find that by going to mindsetmasterycollective.com, and then we have a pre-mastermind discussion that you can participate in too if you'd like to. Okay, so let me get over here where I can see everybody. Like I was saying, we're in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People in the Digital Age. And we are in this is organized a little bit different than a typical book. So we're actually in part 3, chapter 10. And chapter 10 of part 3 says throw down a challenge. And what this particular chapter is about is overcoming challenges or meeting challenges head on, or participating in challenges, or just letting challenges help you grow as a person, or grow as in your career, or whatever opportunity that comes available to you. So there's a lot of stories in here where it talks about people overcoming challenges of physical issues, or people competing with each other in a positive way, that sort of thing. I wanted to start the discussion off this morning and ask everybody, what kind of challenges have you had in your life? And we'll talk about life challenges first, that you feel like has been something that has helped you move forward in your life, become a better version of yourself, improve yourself in some way, or just help you become a stronger person. I mean, what things have happened to you guys in your life? Oh, welcome, Jason. Glad to have you. I just saw you jump in. Who wants to jump out first? And for those of you guys who are listening, what challenges have you in your life, and how has that made a difference for you?
I'll be happy to jump out.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Christine. I didn't see you jump in too. We both jumped at the same time. Well, one of the biggest challenges I think that I've had in my life has been in the last 13 years. Quite a few things happened in my life, and it was pretty dramatic to wake up one morning and be paralyzed from the neck down, and freaking out because you don't know what's wrong with your body, and in a lot of pain, rush to the hospital and find out about a couple months later, after every test on the earth, that they couldn't really diagnose it, and through medications and therapy I got better. And it taught me a lot about how much to appreciate when we do have our full capacities. It taught me a lot of humbleness and compassion for people that go through challenges, especially physical challenges. And it can affect you very much mentally and emotionally as well. So there was a lot of challenges in that, and not being able to go back into the normal workforce. Actually, I share my story now that it was probably one of the biggest blessings that I've ever experienced in my life, on the flip side of it, because it gave me an opportunity to go into an industry I probably would have not had time or not been as interested in as I have been for the last 13 years, and that's in network marketing and direct sales and working with people. And it's helped me to develop a lot of where my passion and love and concern for other people is now, and truly I feel a genuine concern to win people over and influence them in a positive way as a result of that. Before it was just work, 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 and how much can I get work out of other people, and how much work can I do, and now it put me on a different plane in my life. And so for that, that's been one of my challenges.
Okay, can you hear me? Nobody can jump out. That's kind of ironic, Danielle, except I wasn't paralyzed, but I was close to that time in my life as well. What was dramatic in my life is realizing that I was born with a birth defect and had to live with that, and didn't know what was wrong with me until probably the year 2000, 2009, 2008. Got up, couldn't feel my legs, couldn't walk. Well, make a long story short, it gets emotional to talk about it, so I try not to say a whole lot about it, but just to know that I did overcome it. What was more relieving to me was to know that I know now what's wrong with me. I'm not I felt one time like, what do you call the word, a freak. Man, it was really embarrassing, and because my body would move, my body would jump, and then the doctors tell me, okay, Donna, and the part that I really hated to do was give up my full-time job. Yeah, that sounds like, oh, that's crazy. And no, I actually love my job. I love what I was doing, because that offline, when I was offline working in sales, I had come to the point in my life where I really didn't. I was doing sales, but I wasn't comfortable with sales. I mean, I really was not. So I was just basically just doing that as a side thing and working my full-time job. But then as time went on, and to make a long story short, doctor said, Donna, you're going to have to reduce your work hours. Oh well, here I am today, learning all over again. But I'm happy. It forced me to be where I'm at today, because it forced me out of a zone that I didn't want to be in front of people. I didn't want to be in front of a camera, and I definitely am not a great I'm not a great writer. I don't put my apostrophes in the same place. I don't dot my I's all the way and don't cross my T's. But I get my point across because I'm a connector at heart. So I had to learn my other weak points to bring out the best in me, to be able to be that person so that I can help others in a great way. In a small way, but lead to a greater way. That's why I'm here today, and more to the story, but it was really embarrassing my life at one time. But I'm proud of who I am today. Thank goodness for that. Okay.
That's amazing stories, ladies. When you think about challenges, I mean, all of a sudden waking up and not being able to move or not being able to control your body is certainly an amazing challenge. Um, you know, I've in my life so far, I'm still a little young, I guess you could say, and so I haven't had the same kind of challenges probably that a lot of people have. But I can tell you that, you know, when I was young, I was looking at basically not being able to get an education, afford an education. You know, I was looking at and then obviously following that would be in life, what would I be able to do without an education? And I had to really leverage competition to earn, you know, scholarship to get my education. But through all of the challenges that, you know, I experienced, you know, in my young adulthood, it was the competition itself that got me through. And I know there was, you know, in our pre-discussion, I kind of posted a late message. I guess it was early this morning, but I was talking about how what I noticed about myself as I think about competition as it relates to our discussion is that over the years, the competition has evolved. You know, it started out being, you know, me against the world and proving everybody that I can, you know, or that I will. And the lowest point in my life, when I was the saddest, you know, it was a competition for me to just get through the days because I was so miserable. But now I'm at the happiest I've ever been in my life, and I absolutely know it's because now my competition is every day for me to get up and be a better me so that I can pour into other people. And I think that it's, you know, really, you know, that just proves the importance of being a servant leader, because I absolutely feel much more fulfilled than I ever have ever in my life.
I'll jump out now. Can you guys hear me? Everything good? Okay. Well, you know, competition. Yeah, I grew up in an extremely poor family, but there's broke and no money, but then there's something that goes beyond that, and that's poor. And that's the family I grew up in had this poor mentality. We didn't have any money, but they were broke too. But there was also poor, and poor, like I said, that poor goes to the bone, and that goes to the core of who you are. And I mean, that was a challenge, you know, starting out in life. My father died when I was 10 years old, and my mother had never worked outside the home, so she really had no marketable skill. So, you know, she did what she knew how to do. She knew how to clean house and iron clothes, so that's what she did for a living, you know. And so anyway, I mean, you know, that was kind of a challenge starting out in life. But I hurt my lower back on a trampoline when I was like 23 years old, and at that time, my life was on this collision course with self-destruction. And when I hurt my back, I went from thinking that I was this really, bad to the bone biker dude to I couldn't even roll around on the floor with my 3-year-old and wrestle with him because I was in so much pain. And so, I know Danielle, which I've never woke up, been paralyzed, but I do 100% identify with, living in pain. And really, honestly, I went through a period of years, like a decade or more, where I really just wanted to die, and actually used to pray that God would just, take me home, because I don't want to live anymore, because this sucks, And I mean, life just was not too much fun for quite a long, period of time. And as far as competition, I got into this place where I couldn't compete with other people. I couldn't compete on, at sports, because there was things I couldn't do anymore. I had to give up snow skiing. I had to give up. I used to do karate. I used to do a lot of things that I just can't do anymore. I had to quit them because physically I can't do them anymore. And even doing my what I did for a living, painting houses, is extremely physical, and it just kept me literally in a constant state of pain. I mean, literally, to where sometimes you just driving down the road crying, just because it's just pain, and had reached that point in life where I just didn't want to live. I mean, I don't believe in suicide, and I would never take my own life, because that's not in my hands. It goes against my beliefs, but really, I didn't want to live for a long time, and now, I mean, I still struggle with pain. We all do, I woke up early this morning and felt fine, and rolled over in bed, and something tweaked in my neck, and I had just this instant raging headache this morning. And that's just life. I mean, that's just part of life. That's where it is, And I feel fine now, but for a couple of hours this morning, it was pretty excruciating. So anyway, not being able to compete with others, like, I mean, sometimes I don't feel like I'm, a quote unquote American male, because I don't drink beer anymore, and I don't really particularly like to sit and watch sports. I don't shoot elk and go pheasant hunting and all that kind of stuff, So sometimes in a way, I don't feel like I'm a real manly man anymore, But what it has forced me to do is to look in other areas. It's forced me to look inward, and develop maybe some other skills that I wouldn't maybe have attempted to develop had I not hurt my lower back. So you can look at a challenge and you can say, well, that's really an awful thing, or you can reframe your thinking and you can say, well, I wouldn't have chosen this, and I didn't really want this, but I can't do anything about it to an extent, so how can I use it? And instead of using that as a brick wall that's going to stop you, figuring out how to use it as a stepping stone to achieve something greater in your life, that is an avenue you'd have never chosen to go down, but for whatever reason, you were placed on this trail. And so, not letting the pain, or not letting different things in life stop you or slow you down, but figuring out, okay, what good can come from this? And I had a brother that was killed in May of 1980. He fell off a roof, fell on his head, and was dead in less than 24 hours. And it was one of those things where, well, gosh, we just had dinner on Sunday, and now you're telling me my brother's dead, And it was one of the most painful experiences I've ever gone through. And yet I can look back today and say, no, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it changed me, and that was back during, all this self-destruction that I was going through. And, I mean, it took me a long time. It took me like a decade to kind of skate through a lot of this crap and to try to get a little bit of life figured out. So anyways, I guess when you boil it all down, from your perspective on one day, this is a terrible thing to go through. But when you can come back 10 years later and look back on it, or 20 years later, and you say, well, you know what, I didn't choose to go through that, but that was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, because for whatever reason, God took that and he slapped me in the face with it and said, hey, Bubba, look at your life. Look at your life. Look at where you're at. Look at where you're going. And he used it to change me. So anyway, I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Wow, guys, that's great. I had a challenge earlier just with my internet, so I'm taking challenges every day. That resonates with me about pain, and when you have a physical ailment that is keeping you from doing things, especially the things that you use to de-stress and things that you really love, and now you can't do it. I totally get that, and I've experienced that as well. As a child, I was immersed in sports, and I always met challenges head on. All through middle school and high school, and then at the end of my high school career, the stuff hit the fan, so to speak, and my family broke up, and my girlfriend and I broke up, and I was lost. I didn't know what to do, and I gave up. I gave up on a certain aspect of my life because I just didn't know what to do, and I stopped challenging myself in that area because I just felt like I was really lost. My whole world was turned upside down, and it seemed like all of my friends, and it wasn't their fault. Everybody was going off to college and all that, but it seemed like nobody was around. Nobody was around for me anymore, and where I had been there for them when I was, strong and able, now I was broken, and nobody was there, and I just didn't know how to handle it. So I actually immersed myself into sports even more, because by being physical, I could get my mind off of those things that were bothering me. And I figured I would just, stay the course, stay in school, and I'd figure it out eventually, But the problem was, is I stopped challenging myself in those areas that I just didn't understand, why things went the way they did. It really rocked my world when that stuff happened, and so the thing is I was left with a bad element in the area, and so every day was a challenge for me to keep moving forward, but then not get pulled into that dark element of society, and and stay in school and get good grades, or at least pass, right? And so for the past, I look back, and for the past 20 years, I've been lost, and not seeking challenges, and not not really growing because of it. So I definitely feel the absence of some great things that could have been in my life, even though I say I didn't, I don't want to keep, I don't want to talk too long. I don't want to say that, just want to say that even though I did accept challenges as they were put in front of me, and I do remember those times when I was asked to, head up a project or something like that with a group of people, and they just picked me for some reason, and I was like, oh, okay, and then and I really appreciate those opportunities, and I really grew from those opportunities. But it just occurred to me from listening to everybody's heartfelt stories that there's a big part of my life where I just stopped looking for those challenges, and I stopped growing in that area. So I recommend nobody stop. Keep going. That's it. say the good thing is that I never gave up, and so.
Good for you, Jason. You gotta keep going, man. Well, many of you are already familiar with some of my challenges. Twice out of a wheelchair. Yes, I've woken up unable to move. Yes, I've got a birth defect I didn't find out until I was 36 years old in a wheelchair, and I've had my career ripped out from under me, and all those things. It's been an interesting life, but the one thing that I've really gained from, it's sort of like the universe throws challenges at us, and sometimes it's when we're not challenging ourselves enough, maybe. I don't think, God doesn't punish us in any way. At least the God that I work with on a daily basis has no judgment. So I'll say that for myself anyway. But, these things, I live with pain 24/7, nerve pain. Yesterday, like today, the thing I'm grateful for is that I can go pee, because yesterday I couldn't. And so it's amazing what you become very grateful for, the little things in life, and what they teach you. Oh my gosh, pain has taught me how to really, it's given me compassion that I never ever would have. I've always been a compassionate person, but not to the levels that I am now. And it's given me the amazing, I've had to develop my ability to stay in the moment, because with pain, part of the biggest problem with pain is fear that it's never going to go away, or that it's going to get worse. So pain and some of these challenges really teach you how to utilize your power. They empower you. They really do empower you to use all of your abilities, to come into the present moment, to develop your sense of focus. And those skills, help a lot. We're talking about business and how to be successful online. Excuse me, those skills really, you don't think that they cross over, but they cross over into everything. It's quite amazing, actually. And the things about your life that you think are just the most tragic turn out to be the biggest gifts. Sometimes and I'm not a religious person, Dan, you know that. But to me, religions are like landing pages. They all appeal to a different set of people, but they all wind up at the same deal. So that's the way I look at it. But pain and challenges are kind of like that too. They drive you to a place where you have to get real with yourself, and you have to get real with the world. You can try to hide things, but it doesn't normally work out that way. And my challenge to all of you is to really have that deep conversation with yourself and find out, are you doing what makes your heart sing? Or are you just chasing the dollar? Or are you just chasing that big house because you think it's going to make you happy? Because I can save you a lot of time and many years of frustration if you will just drop all of that and do what makes your heart sing. No matter how crazy or weird or anything that it seems, just go for that, because otherwise you're going to spin your wheels and not make it too far. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, wow, guys. I'm kind of speechless with everything that you guys have shared with me today, and with all of us, because you've been really lucky. I haven't had any major physical problems in my life. I sprained my ankle once And I've had some back issues and whatnot, but nothing that has ever made it so that I couldn't do what was necessary to get done. The most that I've ever really had to confront has been, bouts of depression. That's something that I've, kind of fought throughout most of my life ever since I was a teenager. And, in the last, I don't know, 10 years or so, I've worked very diligently with my own personal development to overcome that and change my mindset and change that inner talk that was causing me all of that suffering and discomfort. And, so I think it was interesting, Catherine, when we were talking about having more compassion for people because of the pain you were experiencing. And not too long ago, you wrote a blog post that was very along that same lines, where you were talking about, you think that you know what someone is going through, and yet there's no way you can possibly know. Even if you've been through a similar experience, you can't possibly know what that person is going through. And so it's great to have that compassion and realize that, so that even though you can have empathy for them and you can feel for them, is that you still don't know what they're going through, and to recognize that. And so, for all of you, I know that it's been a challenge in many different ways, and I think that we've all experienced some levels of discomfort in our lives. But I have no idea what that was like for you, but I do feel for you. I really do. And I know for those of you who are out there watching, I know that you've experienced things in your lives too. But one of the things that you guys have all made so many good points, and I'm kind of looking down here at my notes. It was like with you, Donna, saying learning what your weaknesses are so that you can discover your strengths and share those with the world and use those to your advantage to better yourself and better other people. And of course, across the board, everybody has kind of talked a little bit about using these things that they have had as a challenge in their life to make a difference in other people's lives. And I think that is a huge thing right there, because if we can kind of take the experiences that we have had and share those with other people and how we've overcome them, then even though a person who is out there who is experiencing something that we may not be able to relate to directly, they can relate to our story. And of course, we've talked about our stories in the previous discussion and how important they are, and this is why. Because when we can share our experiences, other people can see that on a kind of fundamental level or an emotional level of overcoming that challenge, and realize that, okay, if that person can go through being paralyzed, or who can go through suffering through depression, or who can go through a birth defect, or any number of things, if somebody can overcome that, then maybe I can overcome the issue that I'm faced with right now. And I think that that's why so many of these inspirational speakers out there, it's like I know their names, so I'm not going to try and remember. I'm not going to try and tell you what their names are, but I know that for anybody who is out there looking at inspirational videos, you've seen the young guy who has no arms and has no legs, and he goes around the world, talking to people and sharing with them his experience and how he didn't give up, and now he's inspiring people. I mean, how much more difficult can it be to not have any arms or legs or anything? I mean, and he's helping people. And then the man who, and I'm probably not going to say the right political correct term, but he is a little person, and he's in a wheelchair, but he does the same thing. He goes around and he talks to people, and he shares his experiences, and he shares, hey, this happened to me and it sucked, or this is me and it sucks, but because of this I'm able to help other people. And I think that is just it's a one thing when you can look at your challenges and realize, okay, yeah, this sucks, it happened, but I can get past this. I can learn what is something that is going to be a strength. So what strengths am I going to gain from this? It was, and then when Dan, when you were talking about, I didn't choose this, but it's like, look where it brought you, right? And So yeah, guys, I mean, the challenges that I have had have been more along the lines of, we had some financial challenges, some big ones. We lost our trucking company and ended up in foreclosure and lost our house and lost my car. All these things financially happened to us, and and it was hard because we had worked so hard to get up to that point, to get to the point where we had the big house and the big property and all of the toys and all of that kind of thing, and then to just have it, ripped away from us. And and the thing was is that because of that experience, I really started to learn, what really was important to me. It's stuff now. Obviously it's not the stuff, and it wasn't the money, because money can, yeah, sure, it can buy you stuff, and it's great to have it so that you can do stuff, but it wasn't the most important thing. It was the family, and it was that time that we spent together. And what's amazing out of that whole experience before that happened was my husband was working, hundreds of hours a week. I mean, maybe it was not hundreds, but it was at least 80 hours a week, if not more. He was away from home all the time. And, when I have business, it was the same thing. I was working all the time and really had time to spend with my kids. But because of that situation and we lost everything, it changed. Everything changed. So all of a sudden we had all this time, I mean, we had time to spend with the kids. And that, like Dan was saying, it's you look for the blessings in the diversities and the challenges, and that's where the magic happens. But let me just jump over the page and see if anybody's got some comments on here. Okay, so Kelly, can you see the Hangout? Okay, I can watch and hear, but I want to participate. Okay, Kelly, that's something that if you would like to participate, we can add you in next week. We like to get everybody on the panel ahead of time, and then so if you'd like to participate next week, message me on Facebook or something like that, and we can add you in. Okay, so Dan says, I understand aspects of both physical and financial pain myself, and yes, Dan, I have been at point when I was asking God to just take me out of this world. It got very hard and very painful emotionally for me at times. I can feel that from you, Dan. Let's see. And he goes on to say, Sean says, awesome human being, Sean Stevenson. Okay, so is Sean the guy with the no arms and no legs? Is that what you're talking about, Christopher? I'm guessing. And then Dan also says, I think we all tend to look to others for that reassurance that when you go through something hard or painful, you survived well, then I can survive, and we'll pull strength from that to help us push on. We like knowing that we're not really alone in this area, and absolutely, I completely agree with you on that, Dan. I think that is kind of the key, is to realize that, we have these connections with other people, and particularly when we hear somebody has experienced something similar to what we've gone through, and they've survived it, and that gives us that inspiration that we can survive this too, and we can become better than we are now, or better than we were before, or anything along that lines. But I wanted to share a couple quotes from our book, and I wanted to kind of just put this one out there. It says, while connection is necessary to keep us thriving, competition is necessary to keep us striving. And I thought that was really interesting, particularly, Jason, when you were talking about, you take on challenges if they're offered to you, but yet not going after them on your own. And I know that's true for a lot of people. It's all about the comfort zone. We're comfortable where we are. And to push ourselves, it takes more mental fortitude or internal fortitude or whatever to push ourselves into doing something that we wouldn't normally do. But yet when someone presents us with something, we're kind of like, oh yeah, we're not going to back down from that, right? So but then the other challenge, or the other quote on here says, everyone faces challenges in their lives, and people commonly say it doesn't matter what the challenge is, it matters how one responds to it. And I think that everybody has really kind of sent that message home to everybody on the panel today. But I wanted to kind of just ask everybody, what do you think was kind of the most powerful story from this particular chapter? There was numerous stories in here. What do you guys think?
Well,
That's
for
why
me,
it's most.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
For me, clearly, I mean, it's the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. I mean, you know, being a former athlete all my life and playing ball in college myself, like Magic Johnson has always been somebody that I looked up to. So that story definitely resonates with me, and I think, you know, thinking about the quote that you were just talking about, competition, I actually respond to better to competition than I do, you know, money. I'm more motivated by competition than I am money, ironically enough. And so when I find something challenging, I make it a competition. If I can't seem to, you know, overcome it just naturally, I will create a competition with myself, you know, and if there happens to be someone who's making it particularly difficult for me in a given situation, I make that a competition, and that way I'm able to do it without ugly anger, you know, and negativity. I can just make it, you know, I can make it sort of like a game, a competition. I can overcome it. I can celebrate it, and I will be able to engage that person without the negativity.
Yeah, can you hear me? I'll say something real quick here on that, Christina, and this is all good. All of this is just good stuff. And the challenge, and a lot of people would think, wow, if they would look at my page, they would think I was carrying $1 million in my bank. But look, what I tell folks is this. I have $1 million mind at one time in my mind, and like you just said, Christine, it's not about the money for me. Yes, we need money like we need air to breathe. You have better choices, and so much what Samantha said. If things are just snatched out from under you, what's most important is your family, what you got left. Been there and done that too, Samantha. Done that too. But really, it's about your mind. Where is your mind at? You know, the challenges that we face inside. Just like me, I was so uncomfortable with talking to people, and you know, just the whole night, just felt so inadequate. And it just come to me one day and said, look, Donna, you follow someone that can teach you this stuff. You just and like I said before last week, I am not, and this don't mean that I'm putting me down when I say this. I really have never desired to be in the forefront of anything in my life, and that is the truth. I always felt comfortable blending in. That's my strength area. And for someone to challenge me, sometimes I'll back down. I say, okay, you go ahead and lead, and I'll just follow you. We'll see where we go with this challenge. But that's just a good thing for me. You know, it helps me in that area, helps the mindset. Okay.
You're so cute, Donna. You make me laugh. Oh my goodness. I loved that magic. You know, I loved that story in the chapter as well. The point being made was that Magic Johnson and oh gosh, my brain just went blank. Anyway, they
Larry,
were
yeah.
Larry Bird. Thank you. I could see him, but my brain just went blank. So Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were like tough competitors, you know. And then when Magic got sick, you know, it kind of took it took the fun out of the game. I mean, you would think that people that are so, you know, constantly in competition with each other would, the natural response would be you wish your competition would go away so you could win, you know, but that wasn't the case at all. They loved, that's what drove them, that's what made them love the game, was having that competition. And I think our lives are like that. Sometimes we just don't realize it, and I think that's some of the reasons why some of these challenges get how did you say that, Dan? Slapped across the face or something. We get those, right? And I think it's because we underestimate ourselves. We underestimate what we're capable of and the number of people that we can help, whether we choose to do that from a leadership standpoint or from a following standpoint. You know, not everybody has to be out in the forefront. There are some of us that are very comfortable in the background, and then some people that can go back and forth. The point is that we get too complacent in our lives. You know, we get that job where we're feeding our family, or, you know, some of us, like you know, many of us have experienced homelessness and not being able to feed the family, and so that drove us to other challenges. That challenged me. That's what made me go to college. I mean, I dropped out of high school. I didn't go most of the 9th year, and you know, when my kids were starving and there was no food on the table, then I went to college and I became an RN, and that was quite a challenge. I mean, I was a high school dropout, and everybody told me I couldn't do it. But we don't, sometimes I think it's better if we just go ahead and challenge ourselves and don't wait for that slap, because it's much more comfortable if we choose our own challenges. And again, I want to say they're not punishments, you know, they're just, sometimes we just need a little bit of pressure to get us to become more of ourselves and to value what we bring to the world, because so many of us undervalue what we bring to the world, and that seems to be one of the only ways God can show us. So.
But you know, you were bringing up some very good points, and I wonder, you know, for the panel, you know, to respond, you know, but it seems to me that a lot of times we shy away from challenge and competition because we succumb to the fear of a perceived failure, you know. If we step up to the plate of that competition and we don't actually achieve what others think we ought to achieve or what we personally think we should achieve, then we failed, right? And we don't want to fail. We don't want to feel that. We don't understand that just stepping up to the competition and being willing to throw down to the challenge is a success. It's a win. It's not a fail. That's a step forward because you've grown yourself, you know. You've given other people hope. And when we start to kind of get out of this small prism that we often put ourselves in and see the world in, it's amazing what we can do to inspire others, not just ourselves.
Yeah,
Oh, hey.
I said earlier that I don't feel like I can compete with other. I don't feel like I can compete with other men on a certain level, because of the back challenges I have. So, you know, it's like I'll never play football. I will never be a great basketball player. You know, there's just things that I can't do, and I have to face up to that. But I was trying to think of this quote. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but anyway, it's some of this effect that things turn out best for people who make the best of the way things turn out. And you know, it's a little tongue twister, but really, when you stop and think about it, you know that none of us chose maybe the challenges that we've had in life, but you have the choice of how you respond to that challenge. And I was just reading in a book this morning, and one of the things he's talking about in his book was dream stealers and people who want to steal your dreams. And you know, one of those areas of dream stealers, of course, is your friends, your family, your relatives, and there's two classes there. That one class has really got your best interest at heart, and they just don't want to see you hurt. They don't want to see you go out and fail, and you might lose some money, you might get embarrassed, you know, and that would just be awful for you to go through all those horrible things. But then there's other people that are afraid you will succeed, that you will be successful, and they're a dream stealer in that they stand in your way. But then he went on to talk about in this book that another dream stealer might be yourself and the fear that you have. And there's a fear of being non-successful, but there's also a fear of success when you realize that, wow, maybe I'm more powerful than I actually thought that I ever was. And if I do get all this success, my life's going to be different. It's going to be changed, you know. And quite honestly, money's not my motivator. I'm perfectly happy with very little. and yet I have a huge goal, but it's not just for me. I mean, the money goes way beyond me having a racing car or a jet setter lifestyle. That's not me. That will never be me. You know, I don't relate to that. But I do have goals. Will take a tremendous amount of money in order to fulfill those goals. But it's not just for me. And you know that's one of the things about success is that it can't just be. It has to benefit mankind in some way. Otherwise, it's shallow and it's really empty. I do want to share a story that I read years ago, and I really wish that I'd have kept this copy of the story that I read. And I don't even remember where I read it at, but this guy, I think he was in the Second World War, and it was either the first or the second. I don't remember which. Anyway, he was a pilot, and he was in the airplane that he was piloting was for fueling other airplanes, and they transported fuel, and the thing had just been filled up, so it was completely full of jet fuel. And I can't remember what exactly happened, but there was an explosion, and the other people on board the airplane were killed, but for some reason he wasn't. But every inch of his body was burned and scarred, and he lost fingers, he lost toes, he didn't have any ears anymore, he never had hair ever again on his entire body. And you know, I think you'll agree that's a pretty severe challenge. But when he got out of the service, he actually well, I shouldn't say starred, but he was actually in several horror movies, and they didn't even have to use makeup on him because of that's how grotesque that his body looked. But what he did is he started building houses, and all he had in the world was an old pickup truck. So he would go get a loan on this pickup truck, and then he would go out and he'd start building a house. He'd get it to a certain point, then he'd get a loan on the house, pay the pickup back off, and that's how he would go through, and he'd jockey money back and forth until he, he'd get the house built, he'd get it sold, he'd take his profit, and then he'd go do the same thing over again. And the man actually ended up, he was married, he had, I can't remember, it was just a gob of kids, like a dozen kids or something like that. And he actually ended up becoming a billionaire. And he owned radio stations, he owned a lot of stuff, but he went back to that accident where he was at in the airplane, and he realized that had he not gone through that, he wouldn't have ended up with what he had. And so the blessing came out of the hard time. That blessing came. That story's always stuck with me, that he looked back on that accident when his entire body was burned, and he spent like over a year in the hospital, and all the pain that he went through, but he wouldn't have ever experienced any of the pleasure in his life that he ended up experiencing had he not gone through that pain. So I'm done.
I think that's a great story, Dan. You know, and it reminds me of it's not so much reminds me of, but it makes you realize that when you go through something that is so difficult, such an adversity, is that all these other challenges, you know, like everything that he would have had to have gone through and overcome in order to, you know, financial success and business success and have all the family, you know, have all the kids. I can't imagine having 12 kids. You know, all of those things would be, you know, if I can overcome this physical adversity that happened to me, then all this other stuff is like no big deal. You know, it's just like that whole fear of failure. I mean, so many people fear failure, but the reality is when you really look at what's the worst that can happen, you realize that, you know, they can't eat you. You know, it's not like they're going to go hang you on a tree or put, you know, throw you in a dungeon or something if you don't have success. And I think that's kind of I don't know where we get this fear from. Maybe it's from our putting big F's on our papers, I don't know, and making us feel guilty and bad for not being good at math or English or, you know, whatever it is. And so we get this, kind of have this fear ingrained in us when we're young to not fail. And so then when we become older and we have these potential challenges ahead of us of, oh, you know, could we make this happen? Could we make this work? And we're afraid to take that step because of that unknown fear that we can't even articulate what that fear is necessarily. And you know, and for a number of years, we kind of, you know, my husband and I talked about becoming full-time RVers. You know, we kept putting it off, and being like, well, we don't have enough money, we don't have this, we can't do that. And, you know, when we finally did make that jump, we didn't have a bunch of extra money. We didn't have all the resources put together. We had just been through bankruptcy and foreclosure and all of that kind of thing just within a year or so before it. And I'm like, you know, if we can survive all this crap that's happened to us in the past, jumping in an RV and going full-time RV, and we can survive whatever comes at us. It doesn't matter. You know, if we can't pull all the finances together at one point so that we can go do traveling, we'll just stay where we are and make it work until we can. You know, I mean, it was one of those things where it just kind of snapped in my head, and I was like, gosh, you know, what the heck are we waiting for? You know, I mean, what is it we're really afraid of? So that's kind of my thought on that. But I wanted to share. Kelly has a couple things on the page, and I want to go ahead and just you know, acknowledge what she said over here. Oh, what did I just do? Oh, that was weird. Sorry, I had a weird computer functionality thing pop up on me. Okay, so jump over here. So Kelly says, I can relate to physical and financial pain completely. I was in a car accident several years ago, broke my neck, back, all ribs, shattered pelvis, spinal cord injury, crushed leg, ankle, foot, 3 skull fractures, and a brain hemorrhage, was helicoptered to major trauma center after being extricated from car and was put on vent, and my family was told to call funeral home because my brain hemorrhage was fatal. Oh, wow, Kelly, that's, wow. 2 weeks later, I woke up and was taken off vent, but was paralyzed and couldn't name objects correctly from my brain injury. I went through a year of excruciatingly painful therapy and was able to walk again and was able to get my speech object recognition back. After I got home, my husband of 25 years left me for another woman, and my children developed eating disorders and mental health issues. I went into a deep depression because I lost my identity of being a nurse and felt worthless. I did try to take my life, which was actually made me wake up and realize the gift I was given at a second chance of life. The idea of being forgiving of others presented it in the book also needs to apply to yourself before you can move forward. Also, if I had not challenged myself to walk again, I probably would still be in a wheelchair. But I also do attribute my strength to get through this is to God. It is in my nature as a nurse to want to help others, which is why I love Robert's program. Now, my next challenge is to make a video, which I am really putting off, but will do. An unchallenged life is a fruitless life, and is the main message I got out of part 3 of this book. Wow, Kelly, I can't even imagine what it was like to go through that. And you know, I can. That's just a challenge, but I'm glad that you have made changes in your life and have been able to overcome those challenges. That's just awesome and amazing, and thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. And then she goes on to say, challenging myself and networking seems just as hard for me. It's out of my comfort zone, but a relationally complacent life is a fruitless life. This comment was like a slap upside the head and stirred me up to more realize why I am doing this. Good for you. Another fear is achieving success and not feeling worthy of it, and guilt because others are not achieving the same success. Absolutely. Anybody else want to jump in and comment on that?
Yeah, that's an amazing story, and wow, you guys have floored me today with the stories and the triumph today. You know, I've been, you know, doing some sort of training and partnership with someone I met on G Plus named Soul, and he wrote a book called Pay Me What I'm Worth. And really, as we're diving into this book, I recognize that all of that's really not predicated on the just the physical exchange of money and acceptance. You know, it's a lot goes into that self-worth and acceptance and everything. And literally, we are taught from young age, consistently every day, to respond and react to things like fear, doubt, worry, guilt, shame, right? Those are the things that control us in all these situations, all these challenges, and how we respond to those challenges often goes back to what we the lessons that we learned, and they were taught a lot of times unknowingly by parents, by trusted religious leaders, or where anything, because every day something that you do probably is playing on someone's fear of one of those aspects, and it's because that's what you were taught, and you're unknowingly perpetuating it. We do it all the time, and I think that as we're wrapping up this discussion, that's something to really pay attention to and start to be conscious of in your life, where overcoming challenge and in competition really kind of how that plays in your life.
Absolutely. We're at the top of the hour, and I hate to cut off this conversation because I know that we can talk a lot more about it, but we like to keep it to an hour so everybody can go about their day and do their things. But for any of you who want to add more to this conversation, feel free to continue to add your stories to this page, because I know that as people come over here and they watch this video and they read the comments below, that everybody who has experienced some form of challenge in their life can share their story and inspire someone else, and that if you can overcome these things, that someone else can too. So before we go, does anybody else want to add any final thoughts, short, before we wrap up? Please jump out real quick.
Yeah, real quick there. Anybody that wants to hop on the panel, Donna here probably won't be on the panel every Saturday. Don't mind hopping off so you can hop on the panel and share your story with the world, because so many of us said here, Christina, all of us have said, our story is what I was challenged is, Donna, it's not about you. Although it is your story, but you never know whose life you're inspiring and who you can help. There's not a scarcity of people. There's not a scarcity of money. You just go out and learn to use your challenges is what I would challenge anybody on the panel, anybody who's watching. Challenge yourself to go out so that you can bring that challenge out of you to help someone else. It's not about us, it's about somebody else. Okay.
Big hugs to you, Donna, and I would second every word you said. Couldn't have said it better.
Absolutely, and I'll be in training for the next 2 Saturdays, so my spot's open for the next 2. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Have an amazing week, and we love you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. I second the emotion too.
And I just want to reiterate one thing that Kelly said in there about forgiving yourself, and that and how powerful that is, because we have experienced challenges, we've gone through these things in our lives, and a lot of times, sometimes in some way, shape, or form, if we look back, we can see how maybe we were the cause of our own suffering or our own frustrations. Whatever we did, whatever choices that we made obviously brought us to that point in our lives. And I think that we, even for people who don't necessarily say, oh yeah, I was the cause of the problem, we still know it at an intrinsic level or a deeper level that every choice that we make in our lives brings us to where we are. And so a lot of these things that happen, we are upset with ourselves for allowing it to happen in our lives, and so we have to remember that, yeah, you have to forgive yourself. You have to take what comes and make the best of it. Like Dan said his quote about things turn out best for the people who make the best of the way things turn out, and that is so true. It's all in how you respond to it. So forgive yourself, because that's the first step, and then recognize that you can overcome it, and that you have the power inside of yourself to be and overcome any adversity in your life. You just have to choose to it. choose it. So with that, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I want you all to have an absolutely awesome and amazing weekend. Meet us back here again on SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. You can find the current event every Tuesday is when I change it over, so that it'll be the new event for next week. And then meet us in our community also, which is MindsetMasteryCollective.com. That's our Google Plus community. You can join our pre-mastermind discussion. You can connect with those of us who are on the panel and in the community, and we'd love to have you. And then Kelly, hit me up on message me on Facebook or through Google Plus or whichever, and if you'd like to join next week, we'd be happy to have you on. And anyone else who's interested, just message me and we'll connect about that. So that's it for today. Please like our video, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Google Plus, join our community, all that kind of stuff, and we'll see you next week. Have a great day. Bye for now.